What is probability? Well, probability is really just a measure of how likely something is to happen. We measure probability on a scale of 0 to 1. 0 means it is impossible. It cannot happen. Totally impossible. Not even a slim chance. And certain means this is something that is definitely going to happen. We are 100% sure that that's going to occur. Now, in the middle, we have equally likely. It's as equally likely to happen as not happen. This is like when you flip a coin. You have a 50% chance of getting heads and a 50% chance of getting tails. The probability of getting tails is equal to the probability of getting heads. It's an even chance either way. So that's what happens when we have 1/2. Any probability between 0 and 1/2, this would be unlikely. So it could happen, but it's not as likely to happen. And then when we look between 1/2 and 1, these are things that are pretty likely to happen. We have a better than a 1 out of 2 chance of them happening. Another thing just to be mindful of when you're working with probabilities is that you can express them as decimals, fractions, or percents. So if we wanted to, we could call this 0%. As I did earlier, we could call this 100% or 50%. We could even call them decimals. This could just be 0, this could just be 1, as noted above. And then that means the 50% probability we could write as 0.5. So that's just something to keep in mind. Probability is just a ratio. You can express it as a decimal, a fraction, or a percent. Let's talk a little bit more about the formal definition of a probability. There's usually more than one way that something can happen when we talk about events. And the ways that something could happen or all the different possibilities are called outcomes. So an outcome is just a possible result that could happen. And when we want to define probability, we could say the probability of an event occurring is actually going to be equal to the total number of successful outcomes over the total number of possible outcomes. So this is our formal definition of probability. So let's go back to that example of flipping a coin. So there's two possible outcomes. So if I flip a coin, I could get heads or I could get tails. If I want to talk about the probability of getting heads, I could write it like this. The probability of getting heads. Well, let's see. I have two total possible outcomes, right? I could get heads or I could get tails. And there's one way to be successful. That would be getting heads. So the probability of getting heads if I flip a coin is 1 out of 2. Let's talk about rolling a dice. Let's say that I need to roll a 6 in order to win the game. What would the probability of rolling a 6 be? Well, let's see. There is only one 6 on my dice. And my dice has 6 sides. So the probability of getting the number 6 when I roll a dice is 1 out of 6. And this is how we can use the definition of probability to figure out what the likelihood of an event happening is.